But I think we will touch on incentive a little bit after again. But I want to switch gears a little bit on what you mentioned before, Matt, on the sustainability. And this is a question for you, Tim, obviously, because I know the F is super passionate and has looked a lot about this carbon impact of proof of stake. What people need to know about those research that that Carl is doing at EF and general teams about this environmental impact on the merge?
So I think that the best way to think about the environmental impact of proof of stake versus proof of work is, in proof of work, the network is issuing coins to pay for people to build and run computers to secure the network. And the more the coins are valuable, the more computers and electricity gets used. And it's kind of a self-reinforcing cycle where if you have more value in the coins, more people want to mine it. That makes the coin more secure. And so more people want to build on top of it, and that might make the coin more valuable. And then you get more people wanting to mine it. And that basically is like a never-ending rat race in terms of consuming more and more energy. And the reason we have to do that is because you want to make it hard to attack the network. And as more people come to mine the network, you have to keep raising the difficulty to mine, because otherwise they would be able to control such a large portion of the mining power that they could steer the network in a wrong direction. In proof of stake, instead of basically paying people to buy these computers, to run them with electricity, to prove that they're committing resources, we have them lock economic resources. So we have them literally just have Ether, lock that on the proof of stake chain, and then because we have their money physically in the, well, not physically, but because we have their money directly in the protocol, we can either give them a bit of money if they do the right thing, basically as a reward. So when, say, they create a new block, or if they vote on somebody's block and that block is correct, we give them a little bit more money, and they can earn, they can kind of grow their stake that way. But if they do something bad, we can just take away their money. So and like we were talking about earlier, if it's maybe one person who does a little mistake, you just take a tiny penalty. If it's like a full-blown attack on the network, you can literally take all their money away as a way to prevent the attack. And that means that you basically don't need physical energy in any part of this process, because you're just you're able to control the amount of economic stake that people have in the protocol. And people need to run those computers on servers somewhere, but it's an absolutely trivial cost to run. It's equivalent to like an average web app, or like a SaaS platform, or something like Netflix. It's not like something where you're physically building new machines and physically consuming electricity to power the network. It's you can run it on a Raspberry Pi in your home. So, there's different estimates about the exact numbers. They range from like 95 to 99.9.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong view. I'm not an expert on this, on like what the right number is. But proof of stake basically takes away the near entirety of Ethereum's environmental impact, because instead of relying on physical resources, we can rely on economic resources to incentivize and penalize the people who validate the chain.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy, this 99%. Everybody's putting numbers, but I think for the developers out there and for the miners, it's still a bit crazy to think about how this scale is that high. And I might actually follow-up question that I also had in the past, like 3 years ago, we say Ethereum want to go to proof of stake is, how then we are, compensating for those guys, right? I think like the reward mechanism is different, but there are new also reward system, right?
Right. So on proof of stake, the way that you get compensated, there's a few ways. So first, if you produce a block, you get a small reward, and basically you need to produce a valid block. So that means your block meets all of the rules of the Ethereum protocol, and you get a small reward for that. Then when somebody else produces a block, you have to take that block and run it locally, make sure that it's valid. If it is valid, and you kind of vote on that, the word we use is attest, but it's basically like a +1. So if you get a block from somebody else, it's valid, you just attest to it, then you also get a small reward for that. But if you get a block and you're able to say that it's invalid, so an example of this would be the block contains a transaction that gives me 1 million Ether, but I don't have 1 million Ether. So there's something like that in the block. Or it can be, it doesn't have to be malicious. It can also be something where there's just a bug, right? Then you can basically penalize the person who produced that block. And if you don't penalize them and you actually just vote with them, you kind of collude with them, again, either maliciously or because you have the same bug, and somebody else sees that, they see, well, that first person produced a block which was bad, that second person said the bad block was actually good, and I can prove that it's bad, then you get to penalize kind of those two people. So there's always an incentive where, like, if you do the right thing and like you basically follow the protocol rules, you will get a reward, and that reward can grow if the amount of dishonesty on the network is higher. And then similarly, if you do a wrong thing, you will get penalized. And if you do kind of a wrong thing and a large part of the network is doing the wrong thing at the same time as you, that penalty will grow as well.
Nice. I think that's definitely fair.